Welcome back to Unrated Podcast. You have Elijah alongside Grant. We're going to get into another episode here. We're transitioning into Michigan football. It's almost time. It's almost time, people. We are a few weeks away from the first game versus Colorado. I believe that would be sometime like the first week of September. So, about
Yep.
4 or 5 weeks here. And, the talk of the town as far as what everybody is debating and talking about is who's going to be the quarterback. So that's the first thing we're going to dive into here as
Yeah.
far as, it's really a showdown between J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara. So I'm just going to kind of throw it over to you and see what your initial thoughts are on, either of the guys and what that looks like or who you would want to step up with in game one.
Yeah, we're in a tough spot, man. I'll be honest. I'll say we're in a tough spot, but I also would be surprised if we kind of had this like two-headed monster quarterback thing going on again this year. But the reason why I do say I think we're in a tough spot is because if Cade wins that job, I'm pretty sure JJ probably gonna transfer or look to potentially move on. I just feel like that's kind of what the landscape of college football looks like. Like somebody 4-star, 5-star pops out somewhere, doesn't start as soon as they think they should. They kind of end up moving on, to like the next destination. Even though it does kind of seem like McCarthy's like a Michigan man through and through, and is just really like bought in and just kind of it feels like he went there to, more for the school and just that environment and everything. But I think we have a little bit of a problem on our hands, or also like it's a kind of a good problem to have. So I'm kind of just on the fence with it overall. Like I think Cade proved himself to where it's like you can't just sit him down after going 12-1 last year. And we also know you got that Ferrari just waiting in the garage. That better on talent, faster, just more talented. So we'll see what happens. And I'm just kind of curious to see, if Harbaugh's going to commit to somebody this year, or if he's going to just kind of have maybe more of like a 50-50 split, and like whoever's hot finishes the game after after halftime or whatever that kind of looks like. But he will have a few games, I think, too, to kind of figure it out if it comes down to that. But we'll see.
Yeah, no. So I think you made a great analogy with saying like the Ferrari in the garage.
Yeah.
And I would say that is a great analogy. And the biggest question mark I have with that is, what's the terrain? It's kind of like he was brought in last year and he looked great at flashes, and he also looked like a freshman in flashes. So you've seen the talent there, you've seen the arm talent. Week one, back across the shoulder, back across the field, probably maybe even a dumb throw, but he pulled it off. And and that just shows from week one, what he was working with. Just to try to dive into the numbers a little bit. I mean, obviously it's a smaller sample size, but a couple of things that stood out to me is Cade McNamara, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks last year, and that is with 327 total passes. He completed about 210. You go to JJ, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks with 59 passes. So it's just an interesting. Obviously, he's showing that he'll push the ball down the field. Obviously, some of that is when you're coming in the game. But I do think he's showing that he'll push the ball down the field and take more chances, and that will open the offense up. But also, I do think there is something with the precision and slow and steadiness of a Cade. That one thing he did very well for us last year that we haven't had is, with like let's say somebody like a Spate, who was a pretty solid quarterback for us, a better arm talent than Cade, bigger than Cade, made the offense look pretty good from time to time, but he turned it over. He fumbled. He always seemed to do the wrong thing at the wrong time and cost us a game. Versus Cade, who did the top isn't there, but the bottom isn't very low either. He's a safe quarterback, and I think that is what you're going to get with him. You're going to get safety. You're going to get stability. He probably is not going to push the ball for 350 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He's probably also not having that 2 or 3 interception game. He's going to keep it very, very steady and inch along. And I do think there is something to that. So I'm doing a lot of talking here, all to say I do think I would, if I was given the reign, I would want to start JJ week 1, and I would put Cade in as well. I would imagine we hopefully would wash them up to a certain degree, but I would want to see a little bit of both of them in there, at least get both of them, some action, get their toes wet, and on the season. But over the time, we need to see damn near perfect football for the first couple games from Cade, or sorry, from JJ. That's what I really need to see. Them first couple of games, we need accuracy, no turnovers, no blown coverages, like all not coverages, but no, like make sure you're pointing out missed assignments, or you're really having a mastery of the offense.
Yeah,
that's what I need to really see in the first couple of weeks. If he comes out and let's say, hopefully we'll beat all of them. If we're like 3-0 and he's set 6 touchdowns, 3 picks or something, I would think I would be a little comfortable going with the guy who's proven he can get you a Big Ten championship game, or get you to the Big Ten championship game and win it for you. So that's kind of, and he needs to be, he needs to kind of, really blow it away those first couple of games in order for me to feel confident to say, this is your team through and through.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing of all this is like what kind of identity we're going to have. When I say that, we had Hassan Haskins last year. I'm pretty sure he carried the ball for over 25 times, at least 7 or 8 games last year. Probably over 20 times, at least, like almost every game. More because Corn was out as well, but he was getting that workload because we always talk about how you never seen. I mean, I don't think I ever saw him get tackled for a loss the entire season. I think like 150 of his carries was for a first down or something crazy like that. So, I think it kind of depends. Like, so now we have like Corum. He's smaller, compact guy, but he's also more like a speedster. And this will kind of be his first year, kind of maybe trying to shoulder a little more of that load. We got Donovan Edwards behind him. We don't really have that like bell cow. Well, we'll see. I don't know if we're gonna have that bell cow to where, we're just able to kind of like I think how Cade played kind of fit better with our identity last year. But this year, we got Ronnie Bell coming back. We got and Andre Anthony. We got some freshman receivers that's going to be pretty good. Roman Wilson. So a lot of guys are really to be able to get the ball around to in space and just kind of let them let them work. So I just kind of feel like my hope is that we're kind of like run first still, and just really making sure that we are focusing on that. And I could be wrong when I say this, but I do just kind of feel like I would love to, with the receiver talent we have, I would love to see JJ out there really just like throwing it all over the place. So it'll just kind of be interesting to see, how much more they look to do that with him. And then what it looks like, if that's gonna be like Cade up controls. And it's crazy, man, because like, Cade, he struggled here and there, to start the season off. Had a couple games where he barely threw, but like we didn't really need it. But it's still like, he wasn't really keeping the defense honest. But I feel like as the year went on, he started to definitely improve and get more comfortable. And a man is 12-2, 13-2, something like that. I mean, he's got the record to show for it. So it's a tough spot. But it'll be interesting to see just kind of like where our strengths lie. You know what I'm saying? Like if we like whether it's gonna be like run game, which I'm confident we'll be able to like contribute, do pretty well in that side of things, or if we just got, if they feel like we can just if our receivers can beat everybody that comes up or lines up in front of them, I think that's something to kind of think of too as who to go to.
Yeah. I think I don't know. It really is just kind of like you said. If you back to the running back issue in particular is what I was going to say. I don't know if either one of those guys you can consistently give the ball to 25 times.
Yeah.
I think both of them kind of in this more of a step back category,
Mm-hmm.
So, and not to say I'll be the first to admit I'm not fully sure who the third string is, and I do know that there's ways around that as well to a certain
right.
degree. But you could, if you even have a very serviceable third guy, he could work his way in, and he's been known to, Khalid Hill was our goal line running back for a while, so I just think, he does always find a way to do unorthodox things to run the ball from time to time. So the biggest question I have is with JJ. You said you want to throw it around, and obviously he's showing he can do that to a certain degree. How much do you anticipate him running?
Yeah,
Because that's kind of was his packages coming in last year.
yeah.
Yeah. So do
If
you
I'm not
think that's gonna
mistaken,
be a major package or?
yeah, that's something about the monitor. I mean, we know he had a shoulder issue, didn't get surgery, so like there's more of just kind of like managing it. That's all I get. I mean, that's something to definitely keep in mind. And I was gonna say, I mean, Corum and Edwards kind of remind me of more read option guys, to where Hassan Haskins, we was able to put 3-4 tight ends in on 3rd and 3 and just literally run through everybody's face. So I think that was kind of plays a factor because, if you have a Blake Corum that, and I'm not to say he can't run between the tackles efficiently, but I haven't seen him do it as efficiently as Haskins did yet. But that does, play a factor to where if you're running read option, you got Cade back there. Like everybody knows Cade not getting the ball. Or not, excuse me, read option. I think I said read action. Read option. Like that, you know what I mean? Like most times out of 10, he's probably gonna hand that ball off or give it off to the back. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, when it comes to JJ, just you said as far as him like running, I mean, I wouldn't mind, seeing him, try to tote it 8-9 times a game. I mean, he definitely got some wheels on him. But that's just something that, in the back of the mind is just gotta, try to be more mindful of is, injuries to start to rise and stuff too when it comes to that. Obviously, we can't sit up here scared to run them because of injuries, but something to think about for sure.
Yeah, no, and I would say that's the thing with him is just the question marks, and I guess you don't answer question marks until you throw them in there and throw them into the fire, for lack of a better term. So I do wonder, and I'm just mulling over it, in my head, like what he's looked like, and when I've seen him, whether it's I think it was first Western Michigan, the first week of the year, he threw it across the shoulder, 60 yards, or probably I would try to think, did he ever cost us already? And I would say, yeah. And that was when he fumbled versus State.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that those are the type of issues and mistakes that we just cannot have. We cannot afford. And with as good as our defense as I anticipate us having, we typically have a very good defense. Limiting those type of turnovers, you're going to stay in the game and be competitive. So, what's the trade-off going to be? If can he double us to Cade had 15 touchdown passes. If he can get us to 30, then maybe we can take a few more turnovers here and there.
Right.
But if he can't get us, if he can't double it and he's gonna double the amount of interceptions, I think that's just a risk that we can't take. But I do think ultimately I would go out there and start him those first couple of weeks, see what he has, and at the end of the day, if he's not playing perfect football, then I think we can make a change and adjustment at that point.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it like with Cade, man, I would say this probably gonna sound crazy that I say this, but I think I'm literally like last year I was asking for JJ. I just thought it, what I was seeing looked like it made sense. Like pretty much up until that State game. That's not like, all right, he need to go sit down somewhere until he, work on his ball security. But like, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at both. I can't sit up here and be like, man, like I don't want Cade. You know what I'm saying? He took us to a Big Ten championship. So, like he knows, he was a 4-star too. He don't play or like look like what we think that typical 4-star does. Just crazy stats and everything. He just does what needs to be done. Plays within the offense and doesn't turn the ball over. So I'm at peace, I guess. I mean, I'm looking at like even the non-conference schedule. I mean, I'm looking at our schedule overall. I say it looks very favorable, just for us to, kind of be able to, maybe it takes us longer into the year to figure out this issue, like, or whatever that may look like. I hope it is resolved by the time the season starts. You don't have to really do a whole lot of like, dancing around with it come, later and later into the season. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh, I mean, it worked last year. You know what I mean? Like, why not just kind of keep it rolling until somebody just does something so bad or plays so bad to where you're like, all right, we can't put it back in anymore. So.
Yeah. I think I think you're in an interesting spot with just having the two different type of talents as well. because they are able to at least play simultaneously to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that Cade does do well is just manage. Like I don't want to call him a game manager, but that really is what he's doing. And yeah, so it's just kind of one of those weird situations where, like I said before, I just don't know if you want to blow the top off. And I do think, like you said, the schedule is favorable for us in the first couple of weeks there, where we're not, we're no big heavy hitters right off the back as far as start of the schedule goes. So it is that'd be the time to experiment.
Right.
And I do know, just looking across the lay of the land, I mean, you got some other teams that are coming, whether it is, obviously Ohio will be back. State has something to say. So, I think you really do have to get it figured out before you go into the Big Ten schedule there. And you said it before we hopped on, so I don't know if you want to bring this up either, but I don't know. He probably will play to both games, but then, like you said, both players, but then you're risking the if you don't start JJ, he probably will transfer.
Yeah.
It's
very likely.
It's kind of where you're at with that. So, I don't know. I just think that's kind of, your hands are a little tied on that. And so I'm not sure how exactly you handle that, situation.
Yeah. And my man's got, he got 2 years under his belt now in the offense. JJ does, and I think he came in early.
Yep, I think so.
For like spring ball and stuff. So you got to assume, they probably had him walk around with a ball all off season, hitting it. He probably had him doing that after he fumbled. You know what I mean? Just small things like that just make him kind of, watching more film, getting stronger, getting that weight room. I'm confident that he's, they got him doing everything they need him to do and helping him out everywhere they can to, set him up for success and eliminate those turnovers. And I think if that, just that alone, like I said, I'd be cool with it if they kind of went with him. And like you said, hands are tied. But we also have just like, we got the Ferrari, we got the Honda. Got the shiny new toy, we got Mr. Reliable. So it's a good problem to have. But like I said, I'd love to have, quarterback set and stone coming in. We already know who the guy is. So you're not having to deal with issues with the snap or just just chemistry with the receivers. And there's a lot of things kind of come into play when it comes to this situation.
I can't think of one, but can you think of a time since Harbaugh has been here where we know the starter going into camp or going? I don't even think we ever know until the week of the game. I can't think of anybody that.
Yeah, I
don't think we did last year. The year before that, I still think it was who's going to start, Milton or Peter. What's the dude that ended up going to Illinois?
Peters.
Peters, I think, or whatever. So I think there's always kind of.
I think it might be like Milton or Cade.
Yeah, maybe
2 years ago. Yeah, I think. We had Shea Patterson for a couple of years, and he was just head and shoulders better than everybody. We got to use Jake Rudock as a rental. I think he was head and shoulders better than everybody when Harbaugh first kind of got there.
Spate.
Horn
started. No.
Yeah, we had that 1 year, where Spate, O'Corn, and all them guys were starting because everybody was getting hurt. Spate broke his back or something, and then we ended up losing that game, that rainy game at MSU when against MSU, and O'Corn was in there acting all crazy and couldn't move a ball at all.
Yeah, I was actually at that game. We still could have won and we dropped it.
But
let's not bring it to pass here.
Right. But yeah, no, you're right. He does the kind of, that's just, he's a weird dude. He try to, every advantage competitively, he takes advantage of. So like you said,
and I wouldn't be surprised. In this case in particular, it makes sense to foster, even if you do kind of know, to foster that competition, because it will only, still sharpen steel. So I do think if they're both, unless people, and then sometimes it could be a lot of talk. Sometimes people in camp and they know who's better than who. And outside people might not be totally privy, but the team may know.
Yeah, I'm just looking. So Colorado State first game, Hawaii second game, UConn third game. So there's got about a month into the season to do some experimenting. Now, we even got Maryland coming. But we go to Iowa October 1st, and that shit better be figured out by the time we go to Iowa. I feel like that has to be, things always get weird down there. We cost ourselves a trip to the Big Ten championship a few years back, losing a game down there. We're not even cost us. I mean, they was definitely cheating quite a bit that game. But it's got to be addressed. In that first month, and we say it's got to be addressed. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he just had, maybe it was like 50-50 split and just kind of letting the guy with the hot hand, take over and just, give them the keys after halftime or something and just kind of let them finish the game off. So we'll see though. We'll see.
I'll be interested to see if him do that. I truthfully don't know if that's always a recipe for. I don't know if it works.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a time where it really truly worked without like just being like situational packages,
Right.
But yeah, no, I do think. We got a battle on our hands, so it's gonna be a good one. I'm so looking forward to the season. And I just hope they're firing on all cylinders and get it right, come Big Ten time.
Yeah, favorable schedule. And that's I guess I'm looking at this. I mean, after Iowa, at Indiana, Penn State, MSU, Rutgers, Nebraska, Illinois, Ohio. That should be 11-0 or 10-1 at the least, at worst, going into that Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so just kind of shift gears here. Talk about something that happened a little bit earlier this summer that we just never really got a chance to chat about. Was the Big Ten has been expanding. So we have USC and UCLA. They've come join the Big Ten family. I'll be excited to give them a warm welcome. I believe it starts next year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's either next year or the year after where it's going to be.
Yeah, I think 2024.
Official.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I'll shoot it back to you. Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, I've said it before. I always feel like USC, or UCLA, having Los Angeles in your conference in general is going to just do wonders, for the conference. I can't wait to try to, set up a game, set up a time to go out to LA and watch Michigan play. Watch them come play at the big house, whatever that kind of, watch USC or UCLA come and play the big house. I think it's just dope. But just want to, kind of get your thoughts on it and what you see going forward as a whole when it comes to the conference overall.
Yeah, no. So obviously, mostly on this podcast, we typically, and it's all based around sports. But I think a lot of these moves have a little or minor to do with sports and more to do with the money behind it all. And that is a perfect case with this. The Big Ten is one of the more older conferences in all of sports. They bring in more money than a lot of other conferences, probably up there with just the SEC and the Big Ten. Story franchises, whether it's us or whether it's Ohio or, even if you want to throw other teams in there that just have runs like a Michigan State or a Wisconsin or, so we're very, we're one of the better conferences. So I do like that we're taking the time to really grow this and not because what's going to happen and what is already happening to other conferences, they're getting rated. And I think that's something that I would hate to see happen in the Big Ten. And this is an offensive move versus a defensive move. Getting the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA is literally the equivalent of the Big Ten losing like Michigan and Ohio State. They're two historic franchises. Those are,
franchises.
Yeah,
it's no longer college football. It's no longer student athletes. We are
franchises. The program, whatever you want to call them. But that and USC, like whether we're saying this jokingly, but there always been when they were real good with the Reggie Bush era and all that. They joked about how that was a Hollywood town, and there was Snoop would be on the sideline or at practices, and they were hanging out, and so that's what you get when that team is firing on all cylinders, and that's now incorporated within the Big Ten, and so I think it's only going to help all parties involved. That as far as TV now, Michigan players or Ohio State players or Wisconsin or Purdue, whoever players are going to be on in everybody's living room in California. And the same with those young men that are playing on those teams are going to be on TVs across Detroit and Chicago and Cleveland. And that only helps them when it comes to them NIL deals and when it comes to just recruiting for us. That opens up the West Coast a little bit. Michigan always does well with getting players out west.
Yeah.
That's only going to open the door when we say, hey, you're going to have 2 games in your own backyard every couple of years. So I just think that's all around. It's a good thing. And I just really look forward to the Big Ten like stepping up to the challenge, because I really get frustrated with just everybody bowing to the SEC. And I really think that's what this is shaping up to be kind of the battle of those two teams, maybe a couple of mega conferences. And I like that Michigan is or the Big Ten is shaping up to be one of those mega conferences and not get rated, because a few years ago, we still were possibly in the rated category where somebody could get ducked off. But I think
that would just mess up everything going forward.
Keeping them borders tight, and everybody that we're people are coming in, and we're not letting people seep out.
Yeah. No, the domino effect from this is going to be crazy. I mean, I could see us. I kind of hope we do get Pittsburgh, Pat Narduzzi, was talking about how, I don't know if you saw this, is saying that basically if State is one of the best teams in the country or the best teams in the Big Ten, then Pittsburgh might as well join the Big Ten and win the Big Ten. After I know Pickett didn't play, but this was after they lost to State, in that little Peach Bowl bowl game. I mean, I could see, maybe trying to, take a stab at Boston College, maybe like North Carolina. That would be a huge, I mean, we literally would have like 3 to 4 like blue bloods just from a basketball standpoint in the conference. I mean, we already got, just in the Big Ten.
That would make us very well-rounded as far as, obviously, we come with the football heavy, and that, like you said, a blue blood, somebody that's
UCLA too. They're pretty good at basketball.
Very true. And then you bring those conferences, those Big Ten conference. Oh my God! Like in downtown Detroit, when you got USC and North Carolina, and that'd be, can you name a better time for that? But I just think in general, the Big Ten is making the aggressive moves, and and you got to be in growth mode and expansion mode. You can't sit back on your morals and say, "Hey, we are who we are."
Right. And I mean, the baseball game is gonna be crazy. I'm just kidding. Nobody cares about baseball. This is all centered around football and basketball. That's all that. I mean, being real, pretty much all that matters in college. I mean, both those sports are played, during that November to April time frame. They just ultimately get the most attention because they bring in the most money. Of course, everybody knows that. But yeah, I mean, I just think, just from like a bigger lens, I'd love to get us, see if we can get Pittsburgh and North Carolina, maybe like Boston College.
Before we got talking, I read Georgia Tech.
It's about Georgia Tech. It'll be interesting to see what a school like Clemson does. If they want to go, I'd love to see Dabo try to test his waters test the waters in the SEC. Also, wouldn't be mad about them coming over to join us. I mean, that would just make things that much more competitive. As a whole. And
the thing that nobody's mentioning, or that we haven't mentioned, that needs to happen, and they need to finally grow up, is Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, they don't want to get rid of that TV deal.
Come on over, but come on over.
I don't even know, like, how does that TV? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this TV deals kind of work, anyways. But I just never really understood as to like why that stops them from joining the Big Ten. Is that just because they'd have to like automatically be on like the Big Ten network and couldn't be supported by both?
Right now, the Big Ten gets a TV deal, and they divide the money up amongst teams. And they're saying our pie is bigger being by ourselves.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
But I've recently read that with the new TV deal that they're going to negotiate with USC and UCLA in there and all that other stuff, that this pie would probably be bigger than theirs.
Enough to match that? Yeah. Okay.
And they got to keep in mind what they would also bring to the table once they enter as well. So, that's only going to help the TV deal that you'll be now a part of.
Yeah.
But it's also giving them power. I mean, they are NBC. They have to.
It makes sense.
They get the best camera. I don't know how every game looked like. They had HD games for the last, or
Yeah.
4K games for the last 20 years because
Yeah.
they get the best privilege. So
Right.
a lot comes with being a darling of a major news network, station.
And like you said, it's inevitable now. I mean, they always mess around and play like 2 or 3 Big Ten teams a year. I think they kick off at Ohio State this year. They probably play USC every year. Yeah, like I said, they end up playing a couple of teams out of our conference to begin with, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm
as far as them to
brainstorming here. But I mean, you could try to play hardball with them and just say, well, if you're not going to join, we won't allow you to play any of our teams.
ooh,
But then you're probably really just pushing them to another conference. That's
Yeah.
all what you're really doing. It probably would have backfire, but that'd be one way to say, well, if you're not going to join us, you're not going to benefit from playing Ohio State or Michigan State or Purdue or whoever, because we only work with people within.
Right. And what's interesting about that is, and I know this is just more COVID related because Big Ten was at the point where they weren't going to play any games for football season, but I mean, they ended up joining the ACC.
Yeah.
And ended up, going to the I think they won it outright, and then went to the ACC championship, ended up losing. But, I mean, I think they're already, maybe that's in the back of their mind, the way they thought they might be more competitive, in a conference like that, rather than trying to come dance with us, year in and year out on top of playing. Yeah, I mean, they had to play the competition across the board would just be a lot higher than what it is now, because they do play tough schools here and there, but they definitely, they'd be more playing like the Armies and the Navies and the, Air Forces that, to where, I mean, those teams can always show up and beat anybody at any given time, but like, that's a lot different than seeing Wisconsin every year, seeing Iowa every year, I mean, I would even say seeing Northwestern, like, we got some, I know a lot of these teams don't really get that credit because they all get beat up on, by the top dogs in the conference. But, that would raise the level of competition for them pretty aggressively to where, maybe they, maybe for them, they're like, well, we'll see what the ACC is talking about and maybe, take a look at that and kind of see what that number kind of looks like rather than, coming with us. I mean, we ain't going to play them. We're not supposed to play them again until, 2025 or 2030 or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it was every year thing. Yeah. I mean, things are changing. I just, I think, I do think that'd benefit both parties involved as well.
Yeah.
But you can't force them along.
Right. But like I said, if we can, Pittsburgh and North Carolina, I think that would just be very ideal. That would do some numbers, serious numbers for the conference.
Coast to coast.
Yep.
On in New York, DC, Detroit.
Yep.
Out west.
Yep. North Carolina, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech. It'll be interesting to see. And some of them Florida schools, you got to imagine they'll probably end up going to the SEC. That just makes sense. But we got Missouri, they're already in the SEC, so they ain't going nowhere. But I'm just trying to think. I thought the ACC is gonna. I told us that they're already in the SEC. That's how irrelevant they've been how bad they've been in that conference the last few years. But I mean, yeah, I thought the ACC is gonna probably be one of the conferences that maybe kind of dissolves. And I do kind of feel like maybe, or because I think that what's going to happen, we're going to end up having 4 major conferences, and then just taking the conference champ from all 4 conferences, and that just goes who's going to be in the playoff, or just depending upon the expansion and stuff too. But right now, I do kind of feel like the Pac-12 is going to either need to reload and try to grab some of the other teams and the other conferences that are just kind of on the West Coast, but then end up just kind of dissolving and probably just be Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and SEC going forward.
No, I agree. And that would be a simpler way to do it, because you can make like 4 super conferences. Each conference has 16 teams, 8 on each side. You get a couple of non-conference games, and then, like you said, you just filter your way into the kind. So I do think that'd be way to simplify it and take out the guessing game of the whole thing and shit committee with a bunch of like senators on it and shit voting. Like, it's
right. Yeah. Take them out the room and just play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, take them out of the equation altogether. I feel like personally they've already gotten it wrong a few times. I think some teams have been, this is a whole different podcast, but some teams have been seated unfairly in that playoffs, where I feel like it does end up benefiting the SEC. I think that definitely happened this year. So I think it would be good if you just literally play the games and whoever come out on top, that conference championship. I mean, that's got to be an automatic bid. Just treat it how the NFL does it.
Right.
Yeah, just go from there with it. So all good signs though, man. I mean, like I said, I think, this is going to be from a fan standpoint. We got opportunities to, I've always talked about just wanting to see Michigan play in different conference, in different stadiums or, across the country or whatever. So it'd be, I think it'd be dope to try to plan a little trip over to the West Coast and watch them play in the Rose Bowl against USC or UCLA.
No, I'm 100% down for that. No, some good football coming up, some good sports in general coming up. Like I said earlier, I'm just glad that the Big Ten is making the logical offensive steps and sitting back and getting pillaged.
Right. Now I'll even ask you, so son, I mean, I think for me, I just think like NFL is the NFL, the NBA is the NBA, we always have the best of the best athletes. We know, I think everybody's kind of like the favorite ends up being college because it is more of like that, kid just playing for the, name on the front, not the name on the back, whatever, however you look at it. I just think, college always kind of tends to be that more like live, like, something that people be more kind of gravitate and stick to. I guess like, what do you think as far as just like, are they kind of putting themselves up there with almost kind of maybe mimicking, what the league will look like in a sense when it comes to, just the different expansion of conferences and stuff? Or you think they're to the point where now they're almost kind of like separating themselves from being like the, with college football, typically will kind of find a way to be like top dog when it comes to like the most, I don't know. I mean, you obviously got fantasy football and stuff in the NFL, and a lot more going with that and stuff. They play on, you know what I'm saying? Like they offset each other. I don't know. Maybe this is kind of like an odd question to ask, but
no, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. I do think, I think it would be hard for the NFL to get surpassed without. So the reason I think the NFL works so well is similar to college football or college sports in general, where people root for teams.
Yeah.
The NBA is kind of a little more player based, but we're rooting for the Lions, regardless of who got that jersey on. People root for the Steelers, regardless of who got that jersey on. Same with the Cowboys. So people fall in love with those teams, and I think there's a limited amount of them. There's 30 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think if you can maybe potentially limit the pool where, like you said, if there's like 4 conferences with 16 teams each, or that'd be 30, that'd be 64 teams. That at least limits the amount of like right now it's hard to keep track with everybody unless you watch your own team. But if they can highlight those players and make like a fantasy league for just those 4 conferences and that type of stuff, then I think you are I do think those are avenues you could take to begin to close that gap a little bit. But I mean, the NFL really is top dog. I mean, they, like this is a whole nother podcast, but I mean, they went through all the controversy with the kneeling and the players getting treated wrong and all that stuff. And, they did brush it off and kept chugging along. And, they suffered for a moment. But then they kind of, had everybody mad at them. They had, people mad at them for having the players kneel. They had people mad at them for not supporting the players kneeling. And somehow the ratings didn't really suffer all that much. So I said they found that CTE thing. They seem really invincible. So I do think they have. And another thing, just kind of coming up with points here, but just another thing I think they have going for them is if you watch college football at all, you familiarize yourself with the players, and then you want to watch those players in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both pretty good college football fans. We didn't get to watch a lot of Lamar Jackson in college, but I know I could probably catch him every week for a little bit. So one of those type of deals. They also have that where you familiarize yourself with players and watch them grow over time.
Fantasy football, all the betting, that's a good call.
It is interesting though,
right? Because I'm just like, man, like I mean, I just think about like, the Michigan versus UCLA basketball and football, Michigan versus USC basketball and football, UCLA against State.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, we start to expand more. I mean, it'll be crazy that like, it's a possibility that like USC playing MSU, and all the Big Ten teams like consistently. That's what's going to be a part of the norm now.
Right.
And I think one thing is, it even kind of help out with too. Obviously, going to have like that noon kickoff and everything, but a lot of those bigger games, it might end up kind of coming on a little, maybe a little bit more like earlier in the day here and there. Just from like a scheduling standpoint, I'm just kind of spitballing here and there as far as just with the East Coast versus the West Coast, and also might not work in our favor just because they might have games on, later at night here and there, just because it is over the West Coast. I'm sure USC, UCLA will be trying to fight for their 8:30 prime time slots, or 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock slots, whatever that looks like.
Watching Michigan play USC at 10:15, and
if that game, if that ever gets scheduled, like they need to fire whoever let's like approve of that, because that's got to be 5 o'clock West Coast time on the nose. Has to be. So, but no, I mean, like I said, you said, all good stuff. I mean, I think, that's good to just, have dialogue around that, and just, I mean, what's to come, and what's so crazy to me that amazes me is like, I thought these schools were in like contracts. I think like big Oklahoma and Texas kind of have a couple of like years left in their contract or something like that, so they can actually make the move. But like, it was just a casual notification, like USC, UCLA coming to Big Ten next year. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know it was like that easy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that just shows me that, I mean, like I said earlier, domino effect. So now it's just kind of sitting back and waiting, who will decide to make their next move. And as we start to kind of see these super conferences form, it's just an exciting time in college sports overall.
Yeah, no, I think they're gonna have ripple effects that we can't exactly put our finger on now. But I do think in general, it with the players being able to get paid now, it's only going to increase the pie as far as what everything looks like. And I think it is a business. So I do think it's just that's what you're all doing really. It's just fighting for viewership, fighting for eyes, fighting for dollars, the wallets, and this is just kind of like the nitty gritty behind the scenes that gets us to good football moving forward. And as a Big Ten fan, I'm just glad that we're in the driver's seat. Because I think there's a moment, if you're an ACC fan right now, you got to be kind of shit in the bed. That that anybody can get. I mean,
I think it's for the Florida schools.
Other than Clemson wanting to be the top dog.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from running to the SEC? I mean, they
right.
And those type of things like that have to
Miami, Florida State. I mean, you got to imagine them Florida schools are joining the SEC at some point. Like I think it's inevitable.
Agreed.
So another thing, just kind of put a button on it. These are no longer student athletes. These are full blown. These are professionals that just can't go to the league, unless they're 3 years removed.
Right.
So I just, I don't think it'll be anything as far as like, players trying to join the XFL, because I mean they can obviously get quite a bit of money still playing in college, but like you said before you even hopped on, I mean I was kind of talking about the schedule and how that'll kind of look, but I mean it ain't gonna be nothing for them to pull these kids out of school for a week and a half just to make sure they got all the time in the world they need to prepare, for that East Coast opponent that they got to play later in the week. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just looking forward to I'm sure and then the matchups they can make. I'm looking forward to it. A couple years from now we'll be hopefully they'll send them out here first.
Right. Right. Yeah. Get them to see. That's the ability to get them settled in. They got to come see Michigan State, or Ohio.
Hey, and this is a whole side note, but we can hop off here. But a lot of them kids ain't never been to Michigan in November.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's gonna be a little rude awakening.
I mean, you saw Stroud look like a that snow last year up in Ann Arbor. He's from the East West Coast.
Yep.
So that's gotta So you gotta imagine some of the kids that stayed over there, played over there their whole life. end up coming and messing around with Minnesota, Wisconsin in mid-November, that could not be a little bit of a challenge adjusting for them too. So yeah.
Sure. You got anything else for the people?
That's all I got, man. I'm excited for football season be around the corner. We'll be coming to you more with more Michigan content and also Lions content in the next few weeks.
Yes, sir. We'll be back at it.